Hey, how you doing? This is Bob Gumbs bringing you the Concerned Forum. And I hope everyone has been doing well today. And before I get any deeper in this thing, please, when you see us on YouTube, give us a check. And also, by all means, please make your comments. You know, how you feel about what we're talking about, your opinions, what have you. Okay, now we're still feeling the effects of what happened this past Saturday, our great No Kings rally, and I think that that was something that was done that was as great as American apple pie, quite frankly. Now we've been getting a lot of static from the Republicans, especially from that little pipsqueak. What's the name? Johnson, Speaker of the House. Oh, this guy has said that the demonstrators. Let me see what he's saying. People were being paid by Mark Soros. They were Hamas, communist sympathizers, all kinds of crazy crap. And, I look at this guy, uh, the Speaker of the House, I look at the rest of those Republicans, and I ask myself, is this the party that my parents dedicated their lives to? Listen, I know we're talking about different times, 50s, 60s, going to the early 70s. But to see one of the two major parties so dramatically veer away from their founding principles to basically just being an embryonic Nazi organization. And for those who want to dispute me on that, we just found, what is it, 200 some odd papers of conversations the young Republicans had with each other. One guy saying, I love Nazis, referring to black people as monkeys, watermelon eaters, uh, women getting raped was like a joke to them. And naturally, whenever bigots gather together, you always have the old Jewish bullshit popping up, talking about gas chambers. You know, a show or two ago, I made a statement. I guess some people are very pissed at it, but I said that if Americans don't stand up to Trump and MAGA within the next several months, I believe, I truly believe that you are going to have gas chambers in this country. Now, I know I'm sticking my neck out big time. I'm really putting it out on the line like a Thanksgiving turkey. But I see what I see. I feel what I feel. And going by my own personal political and intelligence background, I can only uh, I can only tell people exactly what I feel is coming down the pike. Oh, you like my shirt? How cute. It's about losers, right? Nazis, Johnny Rebs. Hey, Southerners that still think that your Confederate flag is a sign of your heritage? Well, no, sign of losers. Republicans nowadays like to imitate Trump by calling folks losers. Well, these guys were losers. And that's a part of the country that is still economically and intellectually, and as far as I'm concerned, morally behind the rest of the civilized world. Okay, because of their attitudes. But talking about the Republican Party, which by the way, that's one of their party symbols nowadays. Okay, it seems like the Republican Party of today is just a betrayal of their original roots. You know, anti-slavery, Lincoln, economic freedom, blah blah blah, and they have basically junked that. Perhaps because they felt that they couldn't win. The only way that they could win was to appeal to hate and bigotry, which is why, to shift the subject a little bit, oh God, how can I say this? Should I despise people that voted for Donald Trump? I don't know. But I will say this. I feel that the people that voted for Trump, the Latinos that voted for Trump, black folks, which are, relatively small, who voted for Trump, but also I noticed for myself, a lot of black people didn't vote. And now these groups are catching hell. And I think they're finally starting to realize, these groups that I mentioned, I think they're finally starting to realize that this is not a temporary storm. Okay, this is going to be America for the long haul. Because you have to remember, even if we're fortunate enough, even if the Creator forbid, Trump gets struck by lightning, the amount of damage that Trump, the MAGA Republican Party, have done to this country. I tell you, man, I'm over 60, and I seriously doubt, uh, given its state of longevity and the very nature of things, I doubt I'll see any improvement to what America, originally was before 2016. Number one, I say that because I think it might take 2 or 3 generations, maybe more. Some things might never come back to the way they were. And, I think it's a shame. Somebody said something on YouTube a couple of days ago that if this was another country, and he said that because, his thing was that in other countries, people have a baseline knowledge of their history. And Americans, we don't have that. Okay. Oh, remember, this is the country that, for all practical intensive purposes, stop teaching government, stop teaching civics. See, so folks, and also in many parts of the country, they don't want to teach history. So when you look, for example, what we were just talking about, this whole young Republican thing with their vicious Nazi fascism, racism, and hatred of women, you got to ask yourself, how did the hell did these guys get so stupid? We got a young blonde attorney general who doesn't know a goddamn thing, and she's sitting up there talking about, yeah, we're going to attack Antifa. Well, wait a minute, hold on a second. What does Antifa stand for? anti-fascist. Now, I'm a baby boomer, right? So that means that growing up, my whole life was involved. My whole young life was involved with men and women. My mom worked in the war plants, right? Um, my dad had a bad heart. They kept him out there at Fort Dix for about 2 weeks, and he was a 4F. Everybody else in the family, they went into the army or the merchant marines. And these are the people that I grew up around. These were the influences that raised me. The first time I went in the service, and I tell people this, I was 17. And the people who trained me when I was in boot camp, basic, at Fort Dix, I think, what was it? I had about uh, three drill platoon sergeants. Had been in Okinawa, one had been on the Normandy Beach, and one had been in Guadalcanal. See, and yeah, I mean, one time, one of them made it, not a crack, but I guess he was trying to make a point because he was asking our ages. And I said, hey, he asked me, I'm drill sergeant, I'm 17. And the guy said, yeah, well, when I was 17, I was getting ready to land on the beach at Okinawa. And see, there was that connection there. So when I see government officials talking about American government officials talking about like trying to hunt down people who are Antifa, who are anti Nazis, I'm like, what the hell happened? I mean, I grew up all the bullshit I watched on TV, all the movies. They were about guys, World War II, The Great Escape, uh, the Bridge of Margaret. We're fighting the Nazis, right? What's the other one with Spencer Tracy? Uh, Nuremberg, trial at Nuremberg, day at Nuremberg. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about, right? It was about the evil that the fascists had done to the world. Now we have a Republican Party that essentially says, well, we're going to forgive the fascists. We're on their side. And you people out there who are talking about democracy and freedom, you are now the enemy. And that's kind of rough for a guy to take. Hey man, I thought that's what America was all about. The Great War, the greatest generation. So according to the Attorney General, the greatest generation was not that great after all. I mean, according to her. I mean, I think they were super. But this woman thinks that if you're an anti-fascist, then somehow you're not American. And that's the same thing of that little twerp, the Speaker of the House. Uh, the things that he was saying as he's running cover for child sex traffickers. Okay, because I mean that's what the Epstein files is all about. The fact that Donald Trump is in there, and a lot of the so-called important people are in there, and they're doing all they can, even trying to deny a legally elected representative from the state of Arizona to take her seat in Congress for fear that this woman is going to, sign the petition to basically open up the files, the Epstein files. And I tell you quite frankly, I'm happy, I'm impressed of what we did Saturday, right? over 7 million people. But frankly, I will be more, how should I say, more impressed, more happy if we had 30 million people out there demanding that the damn Epstein files be opened up to the public. Now, I'm a Democrat, hmm, and I'm also woke, extremely progressive, and I'm proud of that. I also happen to be a total 26-year military veteran. And I think it's kind of sad that now my Democratic Party is really starting to finally wake up. I give an example. All these clowns that the Senate held hearings for, the Democrats in the Senate, they had no business voting for any damn one of them. And the reason I say that is because we saw from the beginning that this guy Trump is trying to overthrow our democracy. So therefore, we're not going to do anything to help him do that. And I'm glad to see that Democrats, well, just about most Democrats, except perhaps that guy in Pennsylvania named Fetterman, right? But everybody, the rest of the party seems to get that. They finally got the memo. This is not politics as usual. Our country is fighting for its life. And you folks out there in the heartland and down south, right? You are the primary cause for America being in this fix. Okay? I know they say, oh, well, don't point fingers, but listen, it's not about pointing fingers. It's about being realistic. Okay? It's about dealing with reality. If folks in the heartland and in the South have been able to deal with, using critical thinking skills and deal with reality, we wouldn't be in this mess. But Trump, you know, which I'll never, for the life of me, and I know I'm a black guy, okay, but damn, I still have a freaking brain. And I will never understand the attraction of Donald Trump to working class white guys. I'll never get that. I guess because I know Trump looks upon his working class white supporters as so much trailer park trash. I know a lot of you folks out there are angry. You want to throw things at me for saying that, but it's the truth. I grew up. I'm born and raised in New York City. Unfortunately, I've been following the Trump family since I was about 13, 14. And when Donald took over his daddy's company, we could not help but follow him because every damn thing he did, it was like he was treating dogs, right? You know how you grab a dog by the neck and shove his face into it? That's what Trump did. You wonder why Donald Trump, he can't live in New York. Seriously, he cannot live in New York. He is hated by the majority of the population of New York State and New Jersey. And it's not just a racial thing. I mean, race is a big component, but he was hated unilaterally. Blacks, whites, Latinos, Asian. I mean, every freaking body, right? Indigenous people, because of the crap he was trying to pull with the casinos. He's hated. But the folks out there in the so-called heartland, I mean, you got some bonehead from Kansas. And listen to these people. when they're being interviewed before they go into Trump rallies and what have you. And unfortunately, and I feel sorry for them. Okay, I feel sorry because ignorance is to be pitied, right? And they have no idea what they're talking about. And it's like, well, what the hell do you know about Donald Trump? And they don't know a damn thing about this man, his character, his background. And then you got others, they're so wound up in the hateful rhetoric that he has spewed that they don't care. Oh, well, do you know that he's a thief? Ah, do you know that he's an abuser of women? He's after uh, them damn Latino immigrants, and that's all I care about. Well, we're getting close to Thanksgiving, and you know what this bastard has done? He has said that they're gonna stop the SNAP program. Now that's the program that working class Americans use to get food. Especially a lot of veterans use SNAP benefits. And you know the tragic irony is that the people who are to be hit, be hit and hurt the most by Trump are people that live in the red states, quote unquote, his people, the people that really put him in the White House. And I just it blows my mind. It really does because you are literally voting for a person that wants your destruction, and that's sad. And see, one of the problems I have with my Democratic Party. I mean, I'm glad, like I said, I'm glad that they have finally realized the danger of Donald Trump. I feel that for a long time, from Hillary Clinton on down, they did not take Trump as serious as they should have. And now it's caught up with us. And especially now, I mean, Donald was never wrapped too tight. You could see that by the people that he hung out with, Epstein, and that whole terrible, tragic mess. So he was never that well balanced. But at this point, he's absolutely demented, quite frankly. He makes cartoons of himself as a king, flying an F-16 and dumping feces, shit on the heads of peacefully demonstrating Americans who were acting out their constitutional right and obligation to demonstrate against policies that they don't like. And he makes an AI cartoon of himself dressed up as a fighter pilot with a crown, dumping shit on these people. And what angers me is the way that the Republican Party, along with much of mainstream media, tries to normalize this crap. You can't normalize that. We got the King in England named Charles, right? Charles has respect for English constitutional law, and and he is a king. But we have this clown here, Trump, that he wants to be a king, and that is so damn dangerous. It's actually scary, especially when you look at the fact that now this guy is trying to drag us into a war with Venezuela, right? After giving 40 billion bucks of American money to Argentina, because the president of Argentina is a crackpot just like he is and had rolled the Argentine economy into the ground. So he asked his buddy in DC, hey, Donald, send us 40 billion bucks. And Trump says, sure. Meanwhile, farmers are losing their land, people are losing their jobs. He's trying to destroy our government that Americans need. He's running, trying to put the National Guard in every American city that doesn't vote Republican. Uh, I appreciate the Democrats starting to stand up. I do respect that. But as I said, this should have happened a long time ago, right? And I think that Biden was, he was totally unprepared for what this country is now facing. We never had this happen. And remember, the only time the Capitol was attacked was in 1812, during the War of 1812. Yeah, a bunch of brothers burned down the White House. I know they don't teach it like that in American history books, right? But that's what happened. The British had a bunch of black Americans who were slaves, and they joined the British forces and what do they call them? Royal African Marines. And because the Americans they had tried to burn down the Capitol, or not, maybe they did, the Capitol in Canada was at York. So when the British had the opportunity, they said, "Hey, we're going to pay you back for that," and they set fire to the White House, uh, and that's what happened. So what we have now, we have Donald Trump basically doing the job that Robert E. Lee was unable to do, and that is take down the United States Capitol. And I don't understand, I really don't, why it took the Democratic Party so long to figure out that we weren't just playing politics, or that we were playing with the life of the Republic. Like I say, I don't, I'm not trying to keep kicking them in the ass now, but I'm just trying, I'm setting up the whole stage here. Now, I saw this coming in 2015. Um, Three Park Democratic Club in Manhattan. I was one of the people then. I was in the community church, and eh, which is a Unitarian organization. I started attending Unitarian services after I left American Roman Catholicism. And I made those statements then. Everybody said, "Oh, Robert, stop being hyperactive." Well, nobody's saying that now. And I wish that there were people out there that were trying to warn folks about the dangers of this guy, Trump. And the Democratic Party structure, they didn't listen. And as a matter of fact, oh, I'm talking about like in the DNC, for example. I'm not saying that they're not listening now, but they're trying to fight a fire with methods from 20 years ago. See, and if we're going to save this country, we're going to have to do better than that, quite frankly. Now, there was a black man, four-star Navy admiral, just heard about it. He resigned. He resigned. He was in charge of Southern Command. right? The Caribbean, Latin America. And he said, the hell with this, I'm resigning. Because he feels that what Trump is doing is murder. And he's a smart dude. Because you know what's going to happen? I know it's rough now, but someday the clouds will disappear and the sun will shine and sanity will come back to this country. And all those people, these ICE people, these ICE officers that have beaten and brutalized not just undocumented immigrants, but also American citizens, they are going to be held liable. Just like they were, what's his name, Tom Homan, their boss. There will be a reckoning. There will be a reckoning. In 1939, 1940, the Nazis, they never dreamed that someday they would be held to account for the concentration camps and for the gas chambers. But it happened. It sure as hell happened. And I fear that we're going to have the same problem here in America. I, I know the Supreme Court has tried to immunize sitting presidents to help out Trump, but that could be knocked down by a Democratic. If we have a Democratic House and a Democratic Senate, that could be knocked down. So I put it out there. You people who feel that you are doing Trump's bidding, you better be careful. And you better read your Constitution and some laws because you will be held accountable. And as far as the National Guard is concerned, if I were a blue state governor, uh, New York, for example, I would call myself, I would call out the National Guard, okay, to protect the people in my community and to make sure that the so-called federal officers are held up to proper standards. In Illinois, you had these bastards running through neighborhoods, throwing tear gas every goddamn place. All right, this is America. And you know, I'll tell you something else that's funny. Trump is always talking about African countries being shithole countries. You know, oh, well, you can't do anything with Africa intelligently because all their governments are corrupt. Their people are ignorant and blah, blah, blah. Well, I would say that Trump and Americans that feel that same way that he feels, you need to take a good look in the mirror, quite frankly, because the United States now is a third world banana republic. Okay, the chief executive has no respect for law. The only thing he wants to do with the law is work to get, figure out ways to get around it. Okay, he's been in there since January. I understand that him and his family have made over $3 billion since he's been in the White House. Corruption on a massive scale. Okay, we have the concentration camps. What we don't have right now is the gas chambers. But according to the young Republicans, we're going to work our way up to that. So the next time Trump or Vance or that bastard Stephen Miller, anytime they want to start dumping on a Latin American or an African country, as I said, they need to take a look in the mirror. Listen, this is a short one today, folks. 'Cause I have so much more to do. I have so much more research to do. But sometimes when I see things on the news, I just kind of freak out. I saw in my beloved home, Manhattan, Lower Manhattan around Canal Street, I saw a bunch of masked thugs run through the streets of Lower Manhattan, beating people, trying to kidnap people off the street. When, in the name of God in America, did we feel that we had to sink that low? I'm glad that this idiot that Trump wanted to put in the office of oversight, he was told straight up, even by a Republican Senate, yo, man, you ain't gonna work out. Don't even bother showing up for the hearing. And he sent his mommy to the various senators' office to please, let my son have the job. And I'm like, damn, we have gotten so bizarre as a country. And I'm like, am I the only asshole that sees this? What about the rest of you assholes out there? You don't see this? I mean, huh? It's just incredible. But we're gonna make it through this. All right. Well, we just have this, we have what progressives and Democrats must do is talk reality. Okay, just straight up. What the Democrats are doing with the shutdown, it's good. And it's about time. It's overdue. And quite frankly, I think that we should have more on the shopping list. But this health insurance thing, it's a good start. And for those people who don't like that, let me ask you something. Do you think it's cool for your health insurance to be, you start off maybe paying $90 a month, now you're going to pay 2,000? Are you good with that? Especially you folks in the red states. See, I talk hard to folks in the red states because I just want to know, what is it, right? Was LBJ right that as long as a white man can see other people down, he's happy, even though he's down himself? Is that what it is? Is it worth it? Is that the kind of future that you want for your children? You need to start, people in this country need to start asking themselves some serious ass questions. Like when you go on some of these job interviews, well, where do you see yourself in 4 years, right? Well, that's the question I pose to Red State America. Where do you want to see yourself in 4 years? Where do you want to see your kids in 4 years? What kind of country do you want them to be living in? Now, I've been to countries where you got soldiers, you're going in for a comparable double cheeseburger or something, or they go and buy a pair of sandals or a suit. And you got armed military people standing outside the door. I've been to places like that. And I guess that's cool for them. But being American and growing up listening to all this stuff about, democracy and freedom of expression and freedom of speech, it's kind of disconcerting. But you know what? That's them. What's more disconcerting for me is to see it being practiced in the streets of New York. That is mind blowing. And I'm trying to formulate a program here, okay? Public speaking is probably not my forte, but there's so many things that are happening that we need to speak out, and that's what I'm doing. And so I say again to you red state folks, what do you want? Tell us. What the hell do you want? You're not going to have food for Thanksgiving next month. You're probably unemployed, okay? Your mom or grandma is going to be dumped out in the street because of the cuts that the Republicans have made to health care. The education that your kid gets is a joke, right? If there's a hurricane or a flood heading your way, chances are you won't even know about it because the people that do that kind of monitoring, they've been fired. So I'm just curious. You know, you go into the supermarket, you can't, even if you have SNAP, you can still hardly afford to eat. And it's getting worse, it's not getting better. So I'm just curious for you red state folks. You got the president. I guess he feels that, hey, I am what I am, I'm going to die, and I don't even think I'm going to get into heaven. And that's how he feels. Hey, that's cool. But the problem is, apparently, he wants to take the whole country down the hell with him. Is that what you want? Red State America? Is that the best option that you have for your kids? And then you wonder, well, why? Why are these young men, especially these young white men, why are they so strange? What kind of pressures are they under? Well, they're under the same damn pressures that everybody else is under. But you foolishly refuse to see that. And for the last 10 years, with your red state mentality, you have made a bad situation a zillion times worse. And one other thing I wanted to say, Kamala Harris came out with a book. I know that it's caused a lot of discombobulation in the mainstream Democratic Party. Okay, I haven't read the book. I've heard her like on talk shows and stuff like that. I don't know if everything she said is correct. I don't know if everything she said was incorrect. But I tell you this: everything that girl said, everything that she predicted, it came true. And I do believe that this country would be in much better shape if red state folks had used their own critical thinking and judgment and voted for her instead of Donald Trump. All you teachers, nurse, nursing people, right? Federal workers that voted for Trump, and now your lives are a mess. Keep that in mind as you try to figure out how you're going to do Thanksgiving next month. Keep that in mind. Listen, I got to get back to work. I have to see why those dogs keep barking like they do. But anyway, take care. See you again. And I hope you enjoy the Concern Forum. Have a good one. Take care of yourselves. Take care of each other. And peace.